everybody, today we are making some grape jam. Now what we have to do first is we have to get all of these grapes off the vine and wash them and get them into here, heat them up, cook them so that we can put them through the food mill, and then we can turn them into jam. So thankfully we have this little kitchen down in our basement, so we are doing our canning down here. We are very grateful. So here is the first step. Okay, it's been about 40 minutes and I've only got 2 of these done. This is my second one. It takes a long time. I mean, not much out of there yet. It's gonna be a while, people. It's gonna taste good. Okay guys, after all that washing, we are done. We had this was filled up all the way to the top. This was like all the way to the top, made a full bushel. And then we cooked it a little bit on a medium heat, and it just softens them up so we could see it's kind of juicy. Okay, thought we'd show you a little bit more about how this food meal works. This is an OXO, or the OXO brand, and we got this brand because it's stainless steel, because I think they make good products. I've gotten a lot of their products, and it was just over 2 quarts, I believe, the size of it. I think it was 2.3 quarts. So how it works is you put this little thing in here. You need to get this little thing in the hole, and then this part, this hole here, hooks under this, and this you just press down in here and it kind of clicks over. Okay, then we're just going to stir it. So for us, it's been working to do about 1.5 cups of the heated or cooked berries, grapes. I guess they're not berries, they're grapes. But when we were doing the berries too, we also did choke cherry jam. So then you just turn it, and because the blade is at an angle, it just starts pressing everything down and through the holes. And the little plate with the holes on the bottom, I forgot I was going to show you, it just pops right out, and you could change the size. So this one came with 3 different plates. There was this size, there's one with smaller holes, and there's one with bigger holes. So we'll be doing some wild plums, and they have bigger pits, so we can use the ones with the bigger holes. And we like to use the biggest hole possible because we would rather get the skin. This doesn't allow us to get all the skin, but we'd like to get as much of the skin and the pulp as possible for us. But you might prefer to just have the juice. So it just depends what you are looking for. And it doesn't take very long. I just kind of scrape down the sides a few times to make sure it gets in there. And then you can kind of tell because it kind of starts getting a little bit harder or rougher, and it helps if you sometimes you kind of go backwards and then go forward again. And actually I think I like to do it with a little bit more because I think it applies more pressure on it. So I would say 1.5 cups to 2 cups. I think it applies more pressure when you're going over it. And just keep working it in there. Sorry, I'm standing in the light. One thing we don't have very much of in this kitchen in the basement is counter space. So we brought in this table, but there's not a good spot to put it under any light. So I think we're pretty good here. I'm going to just scrape everything down one more time because we don't want to be wasteful. We want to get every bit we can out of there. It's a lot of work to do it. You might as well get the most of it. And that's it. Now I'll pop this off. And scrape everything in, and then we just have a bucket for, or a bowl I guess, for the waste, and we'll take this to the chickens so that they can get some, and any that the chickens don't have we'll put in the compost. So it is said that you could put it over a bowl, but we just found that that wasn't very sturdy and it made it a lot harder. So we're just using this roasting pan, and it just makes it a lot easier. Okay, now you can see the plate a little bit. These just pop right up. If I just push on the bottom, it would pop right up. They come in 3 different sizes, well, for this particular model, but it does seem that most of the models we looked at came in different sizes. So we're ready to start it all again. And just keep doing this until we've gone through all of the grapes that we've heated up. And then, oh whoops, I will empty this though into our bowl to make sure it doesn't like seep up, back up into our meal. So that is how you use the food mill. Okay, we have got all of our grapes through the food mill. We've got it heated up. The juice is boiling in here. We ended up with 44 cups of grape juice. So there's a little test you can do to make sure that your fruit has enough acid in it. And the test and what it tastes like, it doesn't seem like any fruit would pass it. And these grapes are sour. They're very sweet too, but the test is, I don't want to tell you wrong, it's 1 teaspoon of lemon juice mixed with 3 tablespoons of water and a half a teaspoon of sugar. So you need to mix that up. And if your juice, before you add the sugar to it, is sweeter than the lemon juice mix, then you need to add lemon juice to your fruit juice. And it is 1 tablespoon per cup. So we have a lot of lemon to add. It actually ends up being 2 3/4 cups. So I'm going to add this lemon juice. And I just want to see, that was 2 cups. I'm going to see how it's changing the flavor, because I don't know. I guess I still got to add it, but I just want to see. Now we have added the sugar, and this is for an old-fashioned jelly that doesn't use pectin. It's still really good, but it doesn't taste quite as much like grape. So this recipe is for an old-fashioned jelly that doesn't use pectin, and it uses a ton of sugar. Like, they want us to put in 33 cups of sugar. We're not doing that. And what we're going to do is we put in like just over half that sugar, which is still really a lot, and it's still really sweet, and I can't imagine how sweet it would be with 33 cups. So we're going to make it, and it's going to be more like a syrup. We're going to boil it down a little bit, and then if we want, when we have it in the little syrup, we can either use it as syrup, or if we want something more like jelly after it's cooked, we can add some chia seeds to it to help thicken it up and make it into a jelly. So right now we have to boil this for 25 minutes, and we're probably going to boil it a little bit more since we want it to be more like a syrup, and we're not putting all that sugar in. And then we're going to go ahead and get it in the canner. So we'll be back then. Okay, we have our juice has been boiling. We're ready to process the jam, or syrup in our case. And I want to tell you one thing, we use turbinado style sugar, or you can use sucanat sugar. You don't have to use that processed white sugar. There's alternatives where you can use honey and maple syrup. we do so much canning that it works better for us to use the sucanat or the turbinado style sugar, and it's still better for you than the white processed sugar. This is less processed. So it's brown, it's a little bit thicker granules. I will show you. But just something you might want to think about. So there is that. Now before we get the syrup into the jars, we need to remove, there's a little bit of film that my cameraman can show you on the surface of this jam, or syrup, whatever we want to call it, and we're just going to scoop that off. And at least get the most of it. Okay, now remember, we don't want to put all that sugar in ours, and so we're making ours into a syrup, and we're going to be able to use it as a syrup, or we're going to add chia seeds so that we can have it more like a jam. We'll add chia seeds after it's processed. When we open the jar of syrup, we can just mix the chia seeds in. But if you do want to make it into a jam, there is a test to see if your fruit has enough pectin in it. So what you have to do is you have to get 1 teaspoon of your fruit juice and put it into 1 tablespoon of rubbing alcohol. Please don't eat it. If you put it in there, the fruit juice should gel up. So we're just taking an observation. We're not trying it or anything. We're just seeing if it gels up. So if you choose that you want to make jam out of yours or jelly, then you can use that to make sure that your juice has enough pectin in it and you don't need to add any just store-bought pectin. Okay, so now we are ready to add this, and you know what? I don't have my ladle, so let me get my ladle. Okay, I got my ladle. We knew we were forgetting something, but we found it now. So here we're going to fill these jars. Of course, we heat them up and sterilize them in the canner, and then we dump the water. We use that water to pour on our lids. Okay, then we're going to, so that'll heat them up, and then we're going to fill this up, leaving 1/4 inch headspace. Now I already know that the lip on my funnel is 1/2 inch, so I just have to come halfway up on that little lip. This part right here, halfway up on there. Okay, and I like to keep this like a bowl here so that I don't just get stuff all over my countertop. We want to wipe the edge off to make sure that there's nothing on there, and it'll make a really good seal. Wipe the edge, get our lid, then we're going to just go to resistance. Sorry, had to get my rag there. We're going to just do it to finger tight, okay? You don't want to just really make it too tight, and add it to our jar. Now we're going to keep repeating until we get our canner filled up, and then they are processed for 10 minutes. Now you need to make sure where you live, you might have to add a little time depending on what your elevation is. So you need to check that. And then also, and you don't start the time until you come to a rolling boil in your canner. So when that happens, then we're going to turn off the heat. We're going to take the lid off, and we're going to leave it sit for 5 minutes, and then we can take everything out. And there's my 2-year-old. So we will be back here when we are all done. If you do these larger jars, you have to process them for longer. So we're going to process the whole batch for 15 minutes because we're going to have these bigger jars in there, and then we're going to add a few minutes also because of our elevation. So we're going to do it for like 18 minutes. thing you might want to consider is that if you were doing a preserves or something with fruit chunks in it, something that was thicker, you would need to put your spooner or your butter knife in there to release all the air pockets. But since this is just like liquid syrup, we don't have to worry about that. Okay, here we are with all of our finished grape syrup. We ended up with 15 pints and 8 half pints. So we're really grateful. That was with 44 cups of juice. So then of course you add sugar, which increases the volume, but you cook it down, so that takes away from the volume. So this isn't actually 44 cups worth, but we did cook it down for a while to make it thicker. And if you were making jam, you'd cook it down even more and your yield would be even less. But we are really happy with this because we're looking forward to putting this on our pancakes. And then if we want to use some like jam and put it on our toast or something, when we open it up, we're just going to add some chia seeds and mix it in, and that will thicken it up. And we won't be using any pectin. We don't like to use store-bought pectin. You can use natural pectin. There's ways to use like green apple peels and stuff like that. But this is easy for us. The chia seeds are good for you, so that's what we choose to do. Now, one thing that you may notice is that there's no band around our jars, and that's because you're not supposed to store them with the band. So we take them off, we wipe them down, and this way you're not going to collect moisture in between the band and the lid that's going to rust your bands. And also, if there's something, if this wasn't a good seal for some reason and something happened and it popped up, you would be more likely to notice it. But you know, when these are done right, they're on there really sturdy. Now make sure though that when you're done and you have the bands on, you need to wait at least 12 hours before you take them off. Make sure they're all the way cooled, and then you can take the band off, okay? So you want to wait till they're completely cooled so that you don't disturb the seal until it's all cooled. Okay, well, I hope this helped you guys. If you have any questions, then you can leave them in the comments below. Or if you're on our blog, you can just contact us on our contact page or leave comments below, and I will answer them that way. I hope you guys have fun canning and you give it a try. And make sure that you subscribe, follow, and share so that we can help more people learn. Thanks for stopping by.